Well, lovely to be here today. Can you all hear me? Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, I've got 3 questions for you. Has anyone ever made assumptions about you which you feel did not really reflect who you are? 2, has anyone ever labelled you with something that you felt uncomfortable with? And 3, has anyone ever said, if I were you, I would do this? Well, I can see quite a few nodding heads out there. Guess what? They're not you, and they might not really understand you. How many of you feel that we're dealing with a considerable mental health issue in the world today? Okay. Well, in 2003, the World Health Organization reported that 450 million people are living with a mental or behavioral disorder. 10 years later, in 2013, they increased that to 650 million. 650 million. Do you realise that's like twice the size of the entire population of the United States of America? In 2019, the World Economic Forum reported that within the category of mental health, anxiety takes top spot. Anxiety. 275 million people worldwide living with anxiety. Perhaps some of those 275 million people are listening today. Perhaps one of those 275 million might even be you. Studying this, or my interest in anxiety, is about the individual and the consequent impact on family, friends, partners, co-workers, communities. What if we could do something about that? What would that mean for the 275 million people living with anxiety? Studying this has been a 40-year journey for me, a journey of exploring and learning, forming and refining, embracing what works, letting go of what doesn't. And along this journey, I have connected with people from all walks of life and from a range of cultures. And at the same time, I have been developing concepts, ideas, and frameworks which show how human beings behave, why they do what they do, why we all do what we do. And I may have just got something with this framework that might, just might, help the 275 people dealing with anxiety. My journey begins in 1979 when I met my first boss, Tom Martin. Tom was highly influential on my life. Attitudes were different then. Most people had fought or lived in World War II, and those experiences had left their mark. Tom and I shared an office for 3 years, and over that time, he shared his wisdom. Tom said, human beings are inconsistent. They're a mixing bowl of violence, beauty, science, and faith. Everyone has a different way of looking at the world. Tom introduced me to 4 authors. From the East, Confucius and Sun Tzu. From the West, Marcus Aurelius and Machiavelli. These books are timeless, relevant today as much as they were when they were written. These books helped me to understand so much about human beings. They helped me to understand the greatness of human capacity as well as their cruelty and malice. More importantly, what complex and unique creatures we all are. I kept learning and revising what I was doing. And by 2019, I had around me a solid team. This is like 40 years after my journey has started. But we also had a workable, sustainable framework using Eastern and Western, ancient and modern ideas. I switched my career to executive and life coaching and started to use my framework to help people in their professional and personal lives. We developed a questionnaire, and that produced or generated a personalised report. This was to give insightful information to help self-understanding. I needed to be critical of what I was doing. I needed to have evidence. I needed to know what worked and what didn't for my clients. One of my key findings was that whilst people were self-aware, in other words, they were aware that they had anger issues. They were aware that they were fearful about things. They were aware that they were immensely sad about something. But what they didn't seem to know or have is the understanding of the source of that emotion. I found that once people fully understood the framework and increased self-understanding, they were able to move on. Confidence and resilience increased. Anxiety levels reduced. They had control of their lives. They were empowered. Over time, things evolve. Whether it be about the universe, medicine, technology, we keep evolving. Nowadays, when it comes down to all we do, label people. It's what we do nowadays. It's our hunger, our need for quick results. And we label people. I believe this labeling can deprive us of our individuality and can cause more harm than good. Think of it like this. We have 7.8 billion people on the planet, all with different life experiences. Although we share certain qualities, we are all so different. We are individuals. Perhaps now is the time for us to evolve and reevaluate the way we label human beings. I'd like to share with you a summary of the framework. You are a mix of things. You are a mix, within the framework that is, you are a mix of behavioural needs, a mix of emotions, a mix of communication preferences, a mix of biases, a mix of values, a mix of life events. I'd just like to give you a top line on the life event stage of the framework. When we are young, we may envisage our life looking something like this. We see ahead of us some nice events moving forwards. These events can both be positive and negative. So I'd like you to think of those as roundabouts. When we meet a roundabout, or even the roundabout meets us, all we want to do is get off at exit 2 and continue with our lives. If we're knocked a little bit, it might send us off at exit 1 or exit 3. Sometimes we'll get off at exit 4 and go back the way we came. If the trauma is so significant, we can just keep going around and around and around the same roundabout, stuck and unable to get off. Then our life looks a bit like that. Our personal roundabouts can affect our confidence and resilience. It can affect our anxiety. It can affect how we move on with our lives. Self-understanding is a necessity to navigate those roundabouts. And in doing so, it can create healing. That is what this framework has been designed to do. Dr. Paul Coulter is a consultant physician and a doctor. He's also one of the core members of my team, and he actually came up with the roundabouts idea of the framework. And Paul said, "Adam, we finally cracked it." We cracked it. As a doctor, when I meet a patient, I may need to order an investigation. That's like a CT scan or an X-ray maybe. This investigation or this framework is like that investigation. It's tailored for the individual. That's why it works. I'm sure we can all agree with Paul that we need an external investigation to see inside our bodies because we can't do that ourselves. That's quite reasonable. In a similar way, this framework is designed to give that external viewpoint with respect to self-understanding. And that external viewpoint is important because although we may think we have self-understanding, we may believe we have self-understanding, guess what? We're not always right. A magic moment for one of my clients was when they said, "I've just realised I'm normal. For the last 40 years, I've thought there's something wrong with me." When I asked them why, they responded with, "Because that's what everyone has always told me." Paul decided that we needed a psychologist in the team. He felt he wanted to see if our results could be replicated. We found a psychologist, we found an experienced psychologist, and he applied the framework with his clients, and he came back and reported successes. What was interesting is that what he reported were successes he had never seen before. I'm a professor at a university, and we took the framework and we embedded it into a master's module. And I'd like to share with you one of my student stories. This is her. These are her words, so hence I'm going to read it. "I lack confidence. I was nervous when talking to a group of people, speaking or doing a presentation. I could not sleep if I should do a presentation the next day. It was terrible. Sometimes my muscles even spasmed. After I attended the master's module, I started to know myself better than before. I understood my behavioural needs and how to choose my behaviours to achieve my goal. I became more confident. When I went back to China, I took part in a speech contest and took second place. It was amazing, since I knew I could not do this before. Many said they were very impressed, and this was feedback I had not received before." The point to remember here is that unlike my private clients, my students do not have one-to-one sessions with me. They just attend the module, get their personalised report, and embed the understanding of the framework into their everyday lives. Realising this, we decided to create or develop an online platform. And this platform, named Well, basically, we found that it can be used working in a classroom setting. So let's do it online if we can. This platform named Itzy, which comes from the Finnish word meaning a conscious mind, should be launched later this year. And when it is, our plan is to make it available to 24,000 students. This framework, using Eastern and Western, ancient and modern thinking, is helping people right now. The next stage of my journey is to see if I can get Itzy to help the 275 million people living with anxiety. Thank you very much for listening.